Proverbs 2:20. Lema'an telech bederech tovim, ve'orchot tzadikim tishmor. So here we have the purpose lema'an, I think. Now, the difference between a purpose and a result can be very subtle. And so what you might have here, if we read it as purpose, let's do this first. So let's do purpose first. This would be something like, so that you will walk in the way of good. Okay, so that you will walk in the way of good. Let's just cover the verb here real quick. We've got a call imperfect 2ms of the verbal root halach, and remember that halach morphs like a one vav, and so what happens here is the hey is gone, and we get lengthening of the preformative vowel by compensation. Accent retracts here, so telech is what we're looking at. So that you will walk in the way of the good. That's going to be purpose. So that. So if we read it as purpose in this entire passage, what we're getting at is treasure wisdom. It will guard you, and it will guard you so that you will actually walk in the way of good. Good things, good people, goodness. All of these kinds of ideas, I think, are summed up in that masculine plural tov, tovim. Okay, so that's purpose. Let's do result. If we think about result now, this might be something like, so, or thus, you will walk in the way of the good. Again, go back through the entire passage, and what we get is treasure wisdom in the very beginning. Treasuring wisdom, it will guard you. It'll guard you from evil. It will guard you from the adulterous woman or Lady Folly. And the result will be that you will indeed walk in the way of the good if you treasure wisdom. So this becomes more of a result way of understanding this lema'an. Now, if you go to Williams' syntax, he has these two side by side. So purpose, a purpose lema'an, is in section 367, and a result lema'an is in section 368. So you can go there and read these. He gives footnotes here. John Beckman put these footnotes in there to help with the reference grammars. So there's a lot of places you can go and look at these, but these are the references in Williams. Now, what Williams says here is that the purpose lema'an is oftentimes followed by an imperfect or an infinitive construct, whereas the result is often followed by an infinitive construct. And so the fact that this one is followed by an imperfect would lead us to believe this would be more of purpose. And so if we read it that way, I think what we get again is the idea of treasure wisdom from the very beginning. Seek for it like hidden treasures. The Lord will give it to you. The Lord will give it to you. That wisdom will guard you. Okay, so wisdom will guard. Wisdom will guard. It will guard you from evil, and it will guard you from folly, the adulterous woman. And all of this is for the purpose of you living and walking in the path of good. In other words, you might say even living the good life or something like that. Now, it doesn't mean everything's going to be peachy. Doesn't mean everything's going to be hunky-dory in life. But this kind of treasuring wisdom, the wisdom that will guard you, it is going to lead to a life of flourishing, I think. Now, I might have gotten ahead of myself, but we get this second part of the verse with the paths of righteousness. So not just good for good's sake in some sort of abstract sense, but the paths of righteousness according to the commands of God you will keep. And I think that this is going to be true because of your desire to fear the Lord, your love for the Lord, that wisdom that you have, that treasuring wisdom that he gives will help you then learn the fear of the Lord, as we saw earlier in this passage. And then the paths of righteousness or the paths of uprightness you will keep. Here's a call imperfect 2ms, verbal root shamar, good old strong verb there, maybe one that many of you learned in paradigm form. And we get here this first verse of the final summary of this passage, so that you will walk in the way of good and the paths of righteousness you will keep.